Reborn as the so-called vicious second female lead, I found myself carrying the villain's child. I had always thought he despised me, yet the truth left me utterly shaken. In a tragic novel, offending the villain is never wise. The safest strategy is to run. So I fled, wandering the world with his child hidden in my belly. But when I finally returned home for surgery, I learned that the villainous boss was already coming for me. With my back against the wall, I had no choice but to fight. I had transmigrated into a masterpiece of tragedy. The male and female leads were entangled in a doomed romance, suffering without end. And me? I was merely the supporting role, the spark that set their torment ablaze. I had just closed the book and bent down to water my succulents when, in an instant, I was pulled into the very story. The system's voice rang coldly, "Trigger the tragic love between the male and female leads, and you may return." My task was simple, or so it seemed. I was to have a fleeting entanglement with the male lead who had entered the wrong hotel room, just to be discovered by the heroine. Heartbroken, she would storm away, only to get into a car accident. Consumed by rage, the male lead would then push me off a building. Mission complete. But plans never keep up with reality. The man who appeared was not the male lead at all, but a complete stranger. I bolted upright in shock. His face was perfectly sculpted, almost otherworldly, as though he carried foreign blood. This was no ordinary guest, only the wealthy or powerful stayed in such hotels. The night breeze blew through the open window, lifting the sheer lace of my nightgown and leaving almost nothing to the imagination. Panicked, I dove back under the covers, stammering incoherently. Unbothered, he lifted the glass of red wine on the table and drained it in one swallow. My heart clenched, it was drugged. Before I could warn him, the world tilted violently, and my consciousness flickered in and out. It's over, it's all over. When morning came, I found him still asleep beside me. His features, smooth and pale, looked like a sculpture carved from marble. Yet no matter how hard I searched my memory, I had no idea who he was. Silently, I dressed and tiptoed out, easing the door shut behind me. But the moment I turned, I collided head-on with the female lead. Her eyes widened in shock. "Joanna? Why are you coming out of Michael's room?" For 2 seconds, my mind went blank. Then the name struck me like a thunderclap. "Michael?" My voice rose sharply. "Who did you just say?" "Michael, the villain who, in the ending I skimmed, tormented both the hero and heroine until death. He forced them to love one another, yet never let them be together. Breaking up, reconciling, over and over again, I must be insane. I had provoked him. Kicking off my high heels, I bolted toward the elevator. For the next few months, I cancelled all social and business engagements, praying Michael would forget I even existed. Terrified, I avoided every possibility of crossing paths again, for if he remembered me, I was finished. After all, only dying at the male lead's hands would allow me to return. If I were to die at the villain's, I would vanish completely. Meanwhile, my succulents back home must have long withered. Few knew the truth, Michael was a madman. At first, in the novel, he seemed elegant and untouchable, like some emotionless NPC. He rarely appeared, only once, rushing to the hospital after the heroine's accident. To her, he seemed affectionate one moment, only to abandon her in a foreign street the next, rain soaking her to the bone as she chased after his car. But with the male lead, his cruelty was relentless. He suppressed him at every turn, yet refused to let him go, dragging him into endless torment. He was, without question, the reincarnation of calamity itself. The lovers' suffering began only because they knew Michael. But I wasn't like them. I had to go back. Lately, though, waves of nausea, dizziness, and vomiting had me terrified. Could it be a terminal illness? I couldn't really die here, could I? I rushed to the hospital. When the test results came back, confirming my pregnancy, I froze in place. My only way out was clear, I had to pin this child on the male lead. If Eric believed it was his, Sarah would leave in fury, and Eric would chase her for love. Then my mission would be complete. I could return. I could water my succulents again. But as I looked up from my thoughts, there they were, Eric and Sarah, emerging from the examination room hand in hand, looking sickeningly sweet. "Joanna? What are you doing here? Are you pregnant too?" Eric asked gently, as though worried. After all, we had grown up together as cousins. I answered blankly, almost without thought. "Yeah, yours." His face twisted in fury. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Sarah's shriek cut through the air. "What? You're pregnant? Isn't that Michael's child?" All three of us turned our heads at once, only to see Michael standing a short distance away. He stood there in frameless glasses, the dark blue suit tailored perfectly to his frame, making him seem both noble and untouchable. "Help me. Why was he here?" I swallowed hard, forcing an awkward laugh. "Just kidding, haha." Without warning, he drew me close, his voice a low growl meant only for my ears. "You sleep with me and then run. What do you take me for?" I thought you'd see it as a failed setup, I whispered back, my pulse hammering. Sarah's expression turned sharp with disdain. What are you even doing here? They were cousins who had grown up side by side, but they had never gotten along, bickering constantly. Grandma's in the hospital. I came to visit, Michael replied impatiently. The Smith family's grandmother was gentle and kind. When she heard that Sarah was pregnant, I had been delighted for her and urged them to hurry up with their wedding. Yet even as I smiled, I frowned inwardly. This wasn't right. In the book, they had never married. Michael's eyes flicked to me, clearly noticing the shift in my expression. Sarah, smirking, addressed Grandma directly. We're completely above board. We'll definitely hold the wedding as soon as possible. Who are you implying otherwise about? I widened my eyes and shot her a glare. Michael snapped back as if someone had stepped on his tail. Above board? Pregnant before marriage? Hurry up and plan your wedding, before the dress won't fit over that belly. As the argument threatened to flare, Eric quickly pulled Sarah away, terrified his precious fiancée would get upset. Grandma Smith smiled and took my wrist. You two should hurry up as well. Michael turned his head aside without answering. I froze, stunned. No, Grandma, we. Before I could finish, Michael tugged me away. Got it, Grandma. Outside the room, he cornered me, his gaze sharp enough to pierce through bone. Two words echoed in my mind, it's over. It's over. Where's your diagnosis report? He demanded. I forced a weak laugh and tried to move past him. Ha, just sleep deprivation. Hormonal imbalance. His expression didn't change. His voice was as cold as a frozen lake. Hand it over. The aura of the ultimate villain pressed down on me until my hands shook as I rummaged through my bag. That was when I realized something was wrong. This wasn't my bag. Today, both Sarah and I had been carrying white bags. My stomach dropped. When Eric ran off earlier, he must have grabbed mine from the chair. I whispered cautiously, if I said it was a mix-up, would you believe me? He raised one brow. I'll have Eric return the bag. Then you'll go for another checkup. Double insurance, huh? I muttered. Michael sat outside on a chair, opening his laptop and beginning to work while he waited. I was escorted for another examination. It was certain now, I was pregnant. I knew it was Michael's, but Michael might not be convinced. When I sat back beside him, I whispered, is there any chance this child isn't yours? He smiled, but his eyes were pitch black, his tone colder than 30 degrees below zero. We'll know after the DNA test at birth. Huh? I forced a brittle laugh. Makes sense. I'll go to the restroom first. This hospital's most considerate feature was that the restroom was right by the staircase at the corner. I dashed downstairs in one breath, hailed a taxi, and called my secretary. Buy me an outbound ticket immediately. Bring my passport and visa. Only when I lay back in the first-class seat did my survival-driven heart find a moment's peace. After a 13-hour flight, I arrived in the United States. My plan was simple: first, end the pregnancy, then retreat to Hawaii for 2 months of recuperation. Once Michael forgot me, I would return to China. He actually wanted me to keep the baby. How absurd. How was I supposed to go back now? My succulents still needed watering. And with a man as ruthless as Michael, one who always kept women at arm's length, who knew if he'd keep the child but discard the mother? I remembered the Alaskan casino, where he made Sarah chase his car for 5 kilometers in the pouring rain. The memory still left a scar on me. This man was more vicious than I could ever be. The moment the plane landed, my phone began to explode with calls. I had already informed my secretary of my 3-month leave, planning to shut everything off and play dead. Yet, unbelievably, as soon as I set foot in the US, all my pregnancy symptoms vanished. I put on my sunglasses and drove myself to the private hospital I had scheduled. After a string of tests, the doctor told me flatly, abortion was prohibited in the US. Frustrated, I turned my phone back on, thinking it was my secretary calling, and answered. What's going on? This hospital says they can't perform an abortion. An abortion, Joanna? Get back here right now. Michael's kidnapped Eric. He said if he can't find you, he'll make him pay with his life. Sarah's voice was hysterical on the other end. I called Michael immediately, trying to mediate. Sarah's still pregnant. Please don't provoke her. Can you release Eric first? He answered with a cold snort. Has the baby been aborted yet? No. You didn't say anything, so I didn't dare to, I said sincerely. Is that so? Then who made that abortion appointment for you in Washington? I'll kill him. His voice was eerily calm, like something rising from the depths to claim a soul. Help. Of course I made the appointment myself. I pressed the wrong button. Isn't American healthcare more advanced? Better for the baby? I stammered. Do you really wish this child were Eric's? His tone darkened. This child isn't his. But if it were, would you still abort it? Of course, I replied without hesitation. This child had never been meant to exist. I had never intended to keep it. I don't believe you. Then why are you asking, dude? I muttered under my breath. As soon as I stepped out of the hospital, Michael's secretary and bodyguard were waiting at the door. Madam, Mr. Michael wants you to stay in the U.S. for your pregnancy and give birth here first, the secretary said, opening the car door for me. I nodded repeatedly, smiling politely. All right. Just wait a moment. I need the restroom. Yes, the same trick again. Michael's men likely never expected me to dare run a second time. Miss, your visa for Denmark is still valid. Abortion is legal there. Get the plane tickets now. I sped toward the airport, my mind set. Now that Sarah was pregnant, I absolutely couldn't harm her. The only path left was deception, tricking Eric, provoking him into killing me, and ending this farce once and for all. First, I had to reach Denmark and get rid of the baby. Because as long as the child remained, Michael would haunt me like a vengeful ghost, never letting me out of his sight. The moment I landed, I went straight to the hospital and handed over the results I'd brought from the American clinic. I demanded the quickest possible abortion. The Danish doctor rattled off something in his native tongue, incomprehensible to me. My translator, who charged me 2,000 an hour, listened carefully and then turned back with just 9 words, over 12 weeks, abortion is prohibited. I closed my eyes, pain slicing through me. Perfect. Just perfect. Whatever hope I'd been clinging to vanished completely. The phone rang. Sarah's voice came through, tight with tears. Joanna, Michael already knows you're in Denmark. He's on his way. You're on your own now. Typical heroine, crying, yet still trying to warn a cannon fodder supporting role like me. If he catches you, Eric can go free, she added. Well, so be it. Love-struck fools are beyond saving anyway. After circling the globe with this child inside me, I had no choice but to return to my country and try again. But even there, Michael was closing in. Cornered, I decided to fight with my back against the wall. I paid an outrageous fee, 80,000, for a forged miscarriage certificate. How was this any different from daylight robbery? Just as the final stamp hit the paper, Michael burst into the room. Cold sweat slicked my back, exhaustion pressing down after endless flights and frantic hospital visits. Everything about me, my slumped shoulders, my pallor, looked exactly like a woman who had just lost her baby. I kept my head low, bracing for his fury. But instead, he came straight to me, drew me into his arms, and pressed a kiss to my forehead. Rest well. I'll take you back home next week. He didn't even look at the diagnosis report. He simply turned, instructing his secretary and nutritionist to take care of me before hurrying away. What? That's it? Damn it, Joanna. Tell Michael to let me out. Eric's roar came over the phone. Sarah's calling me, she's hysterical. My chest tightened with confusion, even guilt. Eric's voice cracked with anger. He wants you to have the baby and then hand it over to us to raise. What kind of lunatic is he? Can't even keep his own child, so he steals someone else's? Where's the justice in that? I should have let you bury him back then. Why did you ever save him? His words left me stunned. Save him? When had I ever saved Michael? All these years I'd been nothing but the villainess, weaving schemes to wedge myself between Eric and Sarah, sowing discord daily. I had no time, no inclination for good deeds. But then, a memory stirred, an accident years ago. Sarah had been on her way to school when I lied, telling her Eric was waiting at the intersection. She stood there for 2 miserable hours, missing class, only for no one to show up. I had run to tell her gleefully that Eric had forgotten her, distracted by another girl. But before I could relish the moment, a speeding bicycle crashed into us. The rider flew into an uncovered manhole nearby. It was midday, the streets deserted under the blazing sun. Both Sarah and I were bleeding from our legs. The boy lay at the bottom, face streaked with blood, unconscious. Hey, wake up! I shouted. The well wasn't deep, barely over a meter. My own pain was numbed by adrenaline, so I jumped down. With my clothes, I wiped at his face and tried to haul him up. Sarah, help me. She limped forward, dragging him up onto the roadside. Blood gushed from my own wound. I muttered weakly, Sarah, why isn't the bleeding stopping? Then darkness swallowed me as I fainted from blood loss. The incident was settled quietly. Sarah said the boy was her cousin, and he had nearly been disfigured. My impression of Michael back then was nothing more than that of an ordinary-looking high school boy. Who could have predicted that his disfigurement would lead to plastic surgery, and that he'd grow into a striking, villainous CEO? He brought me back to his house. And there, Eric was waiting. The moment he saw me, he exploded. Your wife is back. Can I finally go find mine? He was half mad from being confined. Michael, however, didn't react with anger. Instead, he looked almost pleased, dismissing Eric with a casual glance. Get lost. I blinked in shock. Your wife? Michael smirked. Yes. Let's get the marriage certificate first. The wedding is still being prepared. Eric hasn't been idle, he's been making arrangements. And that was that. How had an angst-ridden tragedy turned into this? The two protagonists had gone behind my back and already registered their marriage. I sat on the sofa, utterly dejected. Michael noticed instantly, his face darkening. Are you really this upset that Eric got married? He closed in, his presence dangerous, suffocating. I don't like Eric, I said quickly. Their marriage is a good thing. Then why are you upset? It's my own business. You wouldn't understand. I waved it off carelessly. He was silent for a long moment before speaking. The baby's gone. But we can still get married. Only then did I finally realize. Michael might actually have feelings for me. When I returned home, my pregnancy symptoms grew worse, and I struggled desperately to keep them hidden. Michael disappeared for 3 whole days. I asked Sarah, and she admitted she had blocked him, afraid he might come after the child. Even the housekeeper didn't know his whereabouts. No one could reach him. I went to his company, only to be told by his secretary that Michael hadn't been in for a long time and rarely showed up at all. A strange disappointment settled over me. It struck me then, I didn't really know him. Unlike him, who could hunt me across continents, I had no idea where to find him. The only true connection between us, apart from Sarah and Eric, was the baby inside me. Unconsciously, my hand pressed against my stomach. It was time for a prenatal checkup. At the hospital, I suddenly thought of Grandma Smith. She greeted me with her usual warm smile. The doctor assured us, Grandma is recovering well and can be discharged after a few more days of observation. Grandma patted the back of my hand, her eyes misty. Our Michael is finally bringing home the girl he loves. Ah, how he adored you. When you were little, he always wanted to hold you, terrified you might cry. You don't remember? I shook my head. You were only 2, plump and fair. He was 4, mischievous as ever. Whatever treats he had, he'd share half with his little sister. She went on, recounting endless childhood stories. Grandma, my voice dropped. But I can't find him anymore. Her smile deepened knowingly. You two loved playing hide and seek. He always hid in the same spot. Go look again. Her words jolted something in me. I thought I knew where he might be. Leaving the hospital, I hailed a taxi and went straight to the hotel. The moment I approached the front desk, the staff handed me a key card. Miss Joanna, your room key. Room key? My heart raced. I swiped it open. And froze. Surprise. A hall burst into color, fireworks glittered outside, roses and balloons covering the ground. Sarah and Eric stood there, too. Before I could process it, I was ushered to the center. Michael, dressed immaculately, knelt on one knee. He opened a ring box, his gaze reverent. Joanna, will you marry me? My chest tightened. Once again, I turned and fled in panic. If the story kept veering like this, would I never be able to go back? But the very next day, the newspapers splashed with headlines. Michael had been seen dating a famous actress. Perfect. Just perfect. Propose one day, find another woman the next. By then, I'd gone dark. Cold, ruthless, hollow. If that's what it took, I'd abort this child, kidnap Sarah, and provoke Eric into killing me. I had to return to water my succulents. So I stormed into Sarah's house. She blinked at me, tied up. Why are you binding me? I'm not the one dating a celebrity. Her tone dripped sarcasm. I glared at her. I want to go home. She smirked, her eyes sliding to my stomach. Didn't you get rid of the baby? Why is your belly bigger? Grinding my teeth, I shot back, I gained weight. If I tell Eric you aborted his child, would he kill me? She teased. He would, came Eric's voice as he peeked from behind a tray of food. I had forgotten, they were married, living together now. You're furious, Sarah said gleefully. What are you so mad about? I forced a stiff smile. I'm not angry. Why would I be? It's just that some people are hypocrites, unworthy of being the father of my child. I'll get an abortion, find another man, and get pregnant again. I asked my secretary to schedule it, only to be told it would have to be induced labor. Fine. Abortion it was. At the pre-op check, the doctor looked grave. The fetus is fully formed, very healthy. Are you certain you want to go through with this? My hand trembled. 4 months. I had carried this child for over 4 months. Please sign if you're sure. I picked up the pen, dazed, when my phone rang sharply. Startled, I set the pen down. Sarah's frantic voice cried through the line. Joanna. Michael's been in a car accident. He's bleeding badly, come quickly. I rushed to the hospital. There he was, unconscious, his face pale yet strikingly handsome, like a fallen god. The sight overlapped with an old memory of the boy in the manhole. The injuries aren't too serious, the doctor said. He'll wake in a few days. I sat by his bed, staring at his perfect face, my anger rising despite myself. Michael, do you even know what karma is? Just yesterday you proposed, pretending all affectionate. Today you're in the papers with a celebrity. Do you like me or not? If you don't, why stop me from aborting this child? Why propose? Why won't you just let me go? Celebrities can give you children too. Tears spilled before I realized. His eyelids fluttered. Weakly, he lifted a hand, patting my head. Celebrities aren't Joanna. I only like Joanna. I froze, my tears drying instantly. He gave a faint smile. Sarah taught me how to make you angry. She said if you get mad, it means you care. Seems she was right. You bastard, I muttered through clenched teeth. Why are you hurt? He pressed gently. I snapped. Sarah said you knew I was going in for induced abortion. I panicked. I ran a red light getting here. Joanna, you never got rid of this child. That Danish clinic? Built with my money. 8 million. I've already transferred it to your account. I stared at him, stunned. Michael and I returned home together, he to recover from his injuries, me to endure my pregnancy. Sarah and Eric came often to check on us. Their reason? A paltry 80,000. Still, in a tragic story, someone had to suffer. Joanna, how shameless can you be? Making a pregnant woman care for another pregnant woman? Sarah scoffed. I lifted my chin proudly. I've always been wicked by nature. She laughed. Wicked? Since childhood, you've fluttered between me and Eric like a moth. Always trying to stir the pot. You know my preference is better than Eric himself. If that's wickedness, then fine. Let's be godmothers to each other's children, you're my only best friend. Best friend? Her words left me dazed. In reality, I had never had friends. Maybe that's why I was so obsessed with novels. Why I still thought about that pot of succulents. I remembered the old man selling them on the street, his stall crowded with plain little plants. But one caught my eye, a small, inconspicuous white flower on top. Succulents rarely bloom. Take it home. It'll keep you company, the old man said kindly. And I did. I had no one to talk to. But at least with that plant, I had something to care for. Something to talk to. It only needed water every few days and a little sunlight. Easier to tend than people. Safer, too. Plants are easy, so much easier to deal with than people, and far simpler to care for. If only I could go back to water mine. That little succulent was my only tether to the real world, the only thing I truly cared about. My arm suddenly throbbed, snapping me back to reality. Sarah was pinching me. I'm talking to you. Right, of course. I forced a smile. And yet, when I thought about it, the things I cared for here seemed to be growing, the baby inside me, Michael, my Michael, and even my unlikely friends, Sarah and Eric. Do succulents die if you don't water them? I asked absent-mindedly. Duh. All plants die without water, Sarah scoffed. Michael silently placed half an apple in my hand. If you want to grow succulents, I'll have the butler clean out the greenhouse and choose some pots for you. I nodded vaguely. I'll even hire someone to care for them, he added. No need to worry about them wilting. After Michael recovered from his injuries, he began spending every day with Eric. What are those two whispering about all the time? Sarah asked, munching on grapes. They're planning the weddings. 2 identical ones, I teased. Sarah shot me a glare. Don't talk nonsense. Of course, we'll have them together. Unless you don't want to with me. She raised her hand threateningly, about to pinch me again. I think so. Let's do it together, I laughed. After all, what girl hasn't dreamed of walking down the aisle in matching gowns with her best friend, marrying the ones they love under the blessings of family and friends? I never thought I'd actually get to live that dream. Sarah and I even entered the delivery room at the same time. We shared a stash of chocolate, nibbling between contractions, enduring silently side by side. Meanwhile, Michael and Eric flailed about like ants on a hot pan. In the next room, another mother-to-be wailed in agony, the nurses insisting she eat. Michael's face went pale. I regret this, he murmured, panic in his eyes. If it hurts too much, we'll ask for painkillers. If I'd known childbirth was so cruel, I would have let you have the abortion. We don't need the baby. I reached out to touch his face, calm despite the pain. Abortions hurt, too. I'm fine now. Don't worry. He lowered his head in silence. Then, with sudden resolve, he looked at me and said, once you've recovered, I'll get a vasectomy. I won't let you suffer again. Take Eric with you, Sarah cut in from her bed. Moments later, we were wheeled out together, and the nurses handed the babies over. Michael and Eric looked down, and both exclaimed in unison, was there a mix-up? Their faces twisted, then relaxed with a simultaneous sigh. Good. Equally unattractive. Grandma clapped her hands with joy. All newborns look funny at first. They'll grow into their features soon enough. In this world, the people I cared about were all vibrant and alive. And in turn, they made me feel alive again. Michael, especially, became clingy after my confinement. He loved reminiscing, telling me stories about our youth. He confessed he once saw me skipping class and climbing over a wall. Alarmed, he chased me on his bike, only to discover I was sneaking off to see Sarah. Relieved I wasn't falling in with troublemakers, he hadn't noticed in time and crashed into us. Then, one day, he produced a folded letter. "A love letter," he said. "I never wrote a love letter." I protested. He showed it to me. My face went hot. It was the one I'd scribbled in someone else's voice to Eric, mocking Sarah for being petty. I'd been so caught up that I forgot to sign my name. "There's no sender, no recipient. How do you know it's from me?" I demanded. "I saw you put it on my seat," he said simply, eyes shining. Damn. I had thought it was Eric's seat. I'd forgotten their class rotated seats every week. "Joanna," Michael continued, "last year, after every banquet, you'd book a hotel room. Was it to arrange chance encounters with me? Practice?" My hand froze on my cup. "That wasn't practice," I whispered. "It worked every time. I only pulled back because, not out of fear of death, but because I didn't want to hurt them. How could I throw away a bond one had nurtured like a delicate succulent? Even one I'd only owned for 10 days could root itself in my heart, let alone someone I'd known for decades. Even knowing the protagonist's plot armor, I couldn't bear to see Sarah hit by a car. Even if it didn't kill her, the scars could last a lifetime." The novel never spoke of the long years after, lived in earnest, scarred and struggling. I cupped Michael's face and kissed him. "So you found out." Still, my thoughts drifted to that little succulent I had just bought before all this began. Was it already dead by now? Michael never broke his promises. When I was finally discharged, I returned home to find the greenhouse overflowing with succulents. The gardener tended them carefully. I searched eagerly for the one I had bought, but though the variety was common, every bloom was orange. Mine had a single, tiny white flower. "Does this variety ever bloom white?" I asked the gardener, confused. "Of course not," she replied. "They're always orange. White ones are usually fakes. Vendors stick plastic flowers on top to make them sell better." I froze. That succulent I had poured my heart into, speaking to it every day, was nothing more than a plastic pot. But at least, I thought bitterly, it would never wither. I once thought the succulents were my only companions. Yet somehow, Michael, the baby, even Sarah and Eric, they all became part of my world. Maybe I can't return to water that single flower, but perhaps this new life, messy, painful, alive, is worth tending to instead. Michael's perspective. Since the age of 4, when I first formed memories, there had always been someone I liked. 2-year-old Joanna came to my house once. She sat quietly, never fussed. Even when I knocked her over, she only muttered softly, "It's okay." Not like my cousin Sarah, who clung to me, demanding I play with her, so unbearably annoying. I told Grandma I wanted to marry my little sister when I grew up. Grandma laughed and said, "You can only marry one person in your life. Once you choose, it can't be changed." I never thought about changing. But Joanna grew up and spent all her time with Sarah, never visiting my house anymore. "Girls prefer playing with other girls," Grandma said. And I, left behind, could only watch. Sarah always knew I had a crush on Joanna. She called me delusional, said I wasn't good enough for her best friend. Deep down, I knew she was simply afraid I'd steal that friendship away before high school. For years I thought my little sister had forgotten me completely. Love letters piled up on my desk, and every time I opened one, disappointment followed. They were never from her. What baffled me most was how some girls sent letters to both me and Eric. Who did they truly like? Why split their affections between two people? They couldn't marry both. Never in my wildest dreams did I expect Joanna herself to send me a love letter. Now I understood why she'd acted as if she'd forgotten me. She must have feared Sarah's anger. She was right. Sarah could be petty. Joanna had grown up, livelier and brighter than ever. She seemed to know Eric liked Sarah, and every day she found ways to push them together, sometimes even placing obstacles between them, perhaps hoping the struggle would strengthen their bond. Then, one day, I saw her skip class, climbing over a wall. Alarm bells went off. Only delinquents did that. Had she fallen in with troublemakers? She ran so fast I had no choice but to chase her on my bike. Relief washed over me when I realized she was only going to see Sarah. At least learning from Sarah wasn't dangerous. But when I looked up again, disaster struck. My head felt impossibly heavy, my body no longer my own. Through the haze I heard her voice calling. With great effort I opened my eyes. Above me was the blinding sun, her small, blurred silhouette leaning over the mouth of the well. She was too far. I was too exhausted to speak. I thought she'd go for help. Instead, she jumped down, tiny and fragile, yet somehow strong enough to lift me, steady enough to help me climb out before I passed out. Blood streamed from her leg. I hope she won't be crippled, I thought dimly. Even if she is, I can push her wheelchair anywhere. I'll take her anywhere. But lately, I had been so annoyed. Time passed. Sarah and Eric got engaged. Meanwhile, Joanna developed an odd ritual. After every banquet, she booked a room at a nearby hotel. I'd even had people stake the place out, but she either never showed up or spent the night alone. When my secretary reported that Miss Joanna had booked a room for the 7th time, I couldn't hold back. I had to see for myself. Could she have caught the eye of someone dangerous? But when I opened the door, the sight stopped me cold. She sprang up from the bed like a startled kitten. Her frightened expression, her flustered explanations, utterly captivating. Both of them were already engaged, and I was still playing a solo act. I'd been unwilling to accept it for a long time. Now an opportunity had presented itself. I decided to act. But the drug in the red wine had been far too strong. I didn't wake until nightfall the next day. By then she was gone. Sarah accused me of stealing her best friend and told me to get lost. Joanna had gone to the hospital. She was pregnant. Our baby. I had been looking up baby names, and she ran away. Did she really not want to have a child with me that much? She was so naive. The US and Denmark had banned abortions last year. I only wanted to talk to her face to face. It was fine if she didn't want the baby. Running around the world while pregnant was too hard on the body, but she bolted every time I approached. Sarah said I should be more formal. So I prepared a 3-day proposal ceremony. I thought, if she found it, she must like me. She did find it, then ran away again. Sarah said I scared her. I didn't want her running around while pregnant after returning to China. Her symptoms were severe, she needed rest. I didn't know if she refused the baby because she didn't like me. Sarah told me, if she gets angry, it means she likes you. Take photos with female celebrities, if she gets jealous, it means she cares. I thought it was a terrible idea. But I couldn't think of a better one. I tried it. As I warned, it backfired. Joanna was so furious she wanted to induce labor. Inducing labor is dangerous. I panicked and raced to the hospital, crashed my car. But she came back. Breaking a rib was worth it. That night I had a nightmare. In it, Sarah and I were shouting at each other at some doorway. She was crying, yelling, "Do you think you're the only one suffering? I lost my best friend. I don't care about gossip or truth, I just want her here. What did I do wrong? Why are you so desperate?" I didn't want to listen anymore. I turned to leave. She chased me, cursing, pounding on my car. "Are you crazy? It's late, raining, and you're still chasing the car." The thud of my heart in the dream jolted me awake in pain. I reached out, held Joanna close, and gently touched her belly. Sarah was noisy even in dreams. Eric didn't even mind. That must be true love. Childbirth is cruel. Thank heaven Joanna didn't suffer too much. She's willing to have a baby for me. She loves me 10,000 times more than I love her. She's always muttering about succulents, about watering them even in her sleep. She chats with Sarah about it daily. It must mean something. So I built her a greenhouse filled with succulents. After giving birth, she went to look. When she returned, she seemed lighter, as if a weight had lifted. She hugged me and said, "Thank you for the succulent pot you gave me. It's okay if it withers." From the day I first saw her, small and stubborn, I never wanted to let her go. She can laugh, cry, or even curse me, I'll take it all. Joanna says succulents don't wither if cared for. Then I'll spend my life proving she's the bloom I'll never lose.